Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News, where we give you a daily view on world markets and the global economy. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Well, on today's show, Greece's debt crisis escalates even further. Banks closed, markets in panic. And tourism in Tunisia gets hit by terror, this time on the country's beaches. Let's start now with the headlines. Well, this could be the climactic moment for Greece. Greece has shut down its banking system for a week, ordering lenders to stay closed for 6 days starting on Monday. Controls to prevent money from leaving the country have also been imposed ahead of a national referendum on creditors' bailout terms. Now, this recent events now come after the European Central Bank chose not to deliver a lifeline of emergency aid, as it typically has in recent years, as Athens squabbled with burgeoning debt. On Monday, global markets slid across the board on growing fears of a Greek default. By mid-afternoon trading, Japanese stocks fell 2.4%, the Australian market dipped 2.2%, and the South Korean market dropped 1.3%. European stocks also fell sharply at the start of trading on Monday. Greece's main stock exchange is expected to remain closed all week. As for China, the Greek crisis is only adding to the drag on stocks there. Beijing's interest rate cut over the weekend failed to boost Chinese markets on Monday, as they finished trading in bear market territory. The Shanghai Composite Index closed down 3.3%, despite rising more than 2% at the open. While in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng was on track for its worst day in more than a year, falling 2.7%. On Saturday, China's central bank cut its key lending rate by 25 basis points to 4.85%, an effort to stimulate the economy in the wake of sluggish growth. Well, staying now in China, a new global bank is taking shape in the global economic powerhouse. Beijing hosted the signing ceremony of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, a new international financial institution set to rival the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. Among the founding members are the UK, Germany, Australia, as well as South Korea. The US and Japan, however, now the second and third largest economies respectively after China, oppose the formation of such a bank. And a U.S. panel has been established now to protect aircraft from potential cyber attacks. The high-level advisory committee, set up by the country's aviation authority, the FAA, is scheduled to meet for the first time this month. The defense of large commercial jetliners to small private aircraft will be discussed there, though the panel's meetings are said to be private. Well, U.S. aviation regulators and industry officials have been increasingly concerned about the potential vulnerability of planes to computer hackers. The aviation industry has now been hit especially hard in recent years by disasters. Some have even speculated that the infamous missing Malaysia Airlines aircraft may have been, quote, unquote, cyber hijacked. Well, now to the Greek debt drama, which is getting even more dramatic by the day. Greece has struggled for years to find a workable solution to its debt crisis. With the government's swift call for a referendum on bailout terms, the closure of banks and capital controls are sending shockwaves across the globe. Anthony Lesmy has the story.
60 euros per day is the maximum withdrawal that can be taken out of banks in Greece as of today. And the European Central Bank has decided to cap emergency funding to the embattled country, which is putting capital controls in place, closing most financial institutions, and the Athens Stock Exchange.
Individual savings in Greek banks are in total safety. The same goes for wages and pensions. Any problems must be solved with calm and determination.
Meanwhile, Greece will hold a referendum on the 5th of July, and one cannot rule out the possibility of Greece leaving behind in what has become known as a Grexit.
If it's a no, of course we are moving towards uncharted waters. We don't know whether we're going to have a bankruptcy within Europe, or even a parallel currency in the future. But even if it's a yes, we don't know what Greece is committing itself to. Why? Because the Europeans have already said that they might withdraw the proposal that they have done some days ago.
Officially, discussions are closed, but Paris and the European Parliament are still seeking an agreement. From the German side, the Grexit is being taken seriously as they fear it might lead to more upheaval.
We
will do everything to fight against any possible danger of contagion.
Portugal, Spain, and Italy are the most fragile and susceptible to financial instability in the EU, But Europe has new weapons to stave off hard turns, including the European Stability Mechanism, which has a capacity of borrowing €750 billion. Another tool, the ECB could launch its massive buyback program of state debt of €60 billion a month that may curb possible market panic.
Well, I think we're much better prepared than we were in 2011, 2012. We obviously have a banking union, we have crisis mechanisms and institutions in place. So I do not see the risk of contamination.
Still, Greece may default on its debts, which equal more than €320 billion, and instability will take place across Europe and beyond as stock markets already begin to shake.
Now we're joined on set by Muriel Matalon, a managing partner for Gornitsky. This is a major law firm here in Israel. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about Greece. What is the latest and what can we expect in the next few days? This does look very dramatic now.
Well, the gods at the Olympus are shaking. For the first time, we are going to see in Europe a major country being kicked away from Europe. And this is, at the end of the day, the country which founded democracy. And all of it, one can simply say, because the Prime Minister of Greece, the Greek Parliament, asked for 5 days extension to bring the issue to the people of Greece, to do what a democracy, a real democracy, is doing. Will that move really create the destruction of Greek economy? Will it be kicked away from Europe? We have less than 48 hours to see. And obviously, it's very hard. One can already see that in Greece, banks are being closed, no fuel, probably electricity will stop in a day or two, and there's going to be a total destruction of the infrastructure. Still, my own belief, and I know we say here in Israel that since the destruction of the temple, prophecy was given to the fools. Nevertheless, I'm ready to guess that within a week or 10 days, some solution will be found out.
So who will be the savior here? Speaking prophetically, of course, we are speaking about Greece.
At the end of the day, the Greek people need to take their own future in their own hands, which is basically what Europe is asking. So it's more a matter of pride. What the Greek people are offering the government is an increase of taxation, and Europe is asking them to go and work harder. That's the main issue. And even if the Greek people will decide in the referendum not to accept the proposal, and they will be kicked away from Europe, then they will have to basically reinvent the drachma, their own currency. The rate of exchange will be such that Greek will not be able to buy a lot of the main products, and the Greek people will have to work harder and harder.
But won't this actually be a good thing for the Greek economy? It will help it to make it more competitive. In fact, I have heard experts say that this could even be good for the euro.
Absolutely. And my thinking is, whether they stay or not, at the end of the day, they will have to work harder and to reproduce their economy and to reinvent the country that basically gave us democracy 2,000 years ago.
Interesting points there. Now let's look closer to home here in Israel. There is a hotly contested debate going on here about the gas fields that were discovered just off the coast here. Israel doesn't have any resources except for this, so this is certainly very important to the government and also the populace. But why is there such a split now?
Is interesting enough, there is some similarity. Here, again, it's a matter of who makes the decision. And the government decided recently that the decision to approve the settlement of the gas issue will be made by the government via the Minister of Economy. And then the Minister of Economy decided he doesn't want to take the decision himself. He felt that it's too much for him. And he brought it back to the government, which then in return decided or was required to bring it to the parliament, which is going to be determined today. One way or another, I believe that the government and the parliament will have to resolve and to find a way to bring this unbelievable reservoir, which are estimated at $100 billion of value, lying in the middle of the sea and not being used at the moment. We will have to find a way. Don't forget, we are called worldwide as the startup nation. But when it comes to infrastructure, we are no start nation. Just look at the Tel Aviv underground. The decision was made by the Golda Meir government in 1970. 45 years later, we're only starting to dig now.
Well, the Tamar field is being processed right now. In fact, Noble Energy, a U.S. firm, is operating this, and there have been questions and a lot of criticism that perhaps the U.S. government is influencing this decision, this sovereign decision here. What would you say about that?
Well, I think that the dialogue between Israel and the U.S. is a very fruitful one, and there's, by all means, the U.S. government has the right to see to it that investments made by U.S. corporations will receive the same treatment as Israelis who invest in the United States. At the end of the day, by trying to enforce the Israeli public to resolve this issue, I think the U.S. government is helping Israel rather than the other way around.
Well, thank you very much for your insight. We do appreciate it. Muriel Matalon, thank you.
Thank you very much.
On to another subject now. Terror hits Tunisia yet again. And like the Bardo Museum attack just a few months ago, this attack on beachfront sungoers targeted tourists. Well, thousands of travelers have since returned home, and most tour operators have canceled visits. Our reporter, Daniel Roth, now explores the economic impact.
On Friday, the resort town of Sousse in Tunisia was the scene of a major terror attack. A man affiliated with the Islamic State organization opened fire at a hotel near the beach. The toll was heavy, 38 dead and dozens injured. The victims were mostly tourists, including British, German, and Belgian, and following the attack, there has been a major exodus of visitors, with chartered buses specially ordered to take them to the nearby airport.
So happy.
Yeah.
We don't want to stay any longer. But yeah, we just want to see our family, parents and stuff. So leaving as soon as possible.
We didn't feel safe at just being us, and our parents wanted us to go home, so we felt that was best.
Thousands of travelers have already returned home, and most of the tour operators have canceled their visits to the country, at least for the days to come.
Nothing's happening. The atmosphere is, there are no people, no tourists. Usually, tourists come here for a stroll. Today, there is no one.
Tourism, not for the first time, has been struck hard, and it's a key sector of the Tunisian economy, accounting for 7% of GDP and more than 400,000 direct and indirect jobs. It's about 12% of the workforce.
They want to kill Tunisia's economy, and that's their objective. The Tunisian economy relies on tourism, and they've touched the heart of Tunisia's economy.
The industry already took a hit in the post-2011 reality and had been building back up until just months ago a major attack took place at the Bardo Museum in Tunis. According to the latest figures from the World Bank published in April, year on year the number of visitors and tourism revenue both fell by more than a quarter.
And now for the stories we didn't want you to miss, we are joined on set by Daniel Roth. Well, thank you for being with us. What do you have for us today?
First things first, Greece is talk of the town. Everything's Greece, Greece, Greece. I wanted to just point out one piece in the New York Times. Paul Krugman, who often is an outlier, Nobel Prize winning economist, but often an outlier, outspoken with his opinion on things. And he's actually taking the opinion that Greece should vote no on the upcoming referendum. They should not take any deals that don't suit them and that demand more austerity, and that they should leave the euro if needs be. Essentially saying that the euro is not set up to help mostly southern European countries that are struggling, and that Greece is not going to get out of this situation unless they get out of the euro, which is not something you hear around town very much, but you're hearing it in the New York Times from Paul Krugman.
Right. In fact, he calls this whole euro project a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. He really thinks that, you know, if you're going to have a union, it ought to be like the U.S., where states help each other out and there's a strong federal presence.
Well, moving forward, what else do you have?
So staying actually in Europe, we have the transatlantic partnership talks, this major trade deal between the U.S. and the EU, which in The Guardian they're talking about. This is really going to drop regulations away and create a single regulated zone across Europe and the US. And of course, on the other side, the Pacific Partnership is going to do the same, the US hopes. But really, this piece is talking about how these deregulation moves are really going to hurt European countries.
So this is actually shifting the power away from the governments to the corporations, and the governments are agreeing to this?
This is the big fear. Now, a lot of the details of these trade deals aren't known exactly, but the big fear is that this opens the door for corporations to sue national governments who enact laws to protect their people, as happened in Australia, for example, when they made it so cigarettes can't advertise on their boxes. Now cigarette companies, Philip Morris, is suing them for this move. So we're going to start to see, as these deregulated trade moves happen, more lawsuits against national governments.
Wow, that will be fascinating to see, and I'm sure you will follow that for us. Thank you so much, as ever, for your insight, Daniel Roth. That does wrap up our coverage today. Do stay tuned tomorrow for all the latest in global business and innovation. Same time, same place from the Jaffa Port in Tel Aviv. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Thank you.